All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Well, by now you've probably noticed the trends. There are certain positions the Niners prioritize 40 times in speed at, and other positions that they really don't. And let's talk a little bit about that. One area where I do feel like they at times prioritize 40-yard times and speed is wide receiver. One of the things that Kyle Shanahan loves to see in his wide receivers is separation. So you see that with guys who have tremendous speed. If you don't have even requisite speed, you probably don't separate from college corners. And if you don't separate from college corners, you're not going to separate from pro corners. And that's why Danny Gray was drafted, because Danny Gray, it also in the receiving corps, it's very important that you have complementary players. And that's why the Niners brought in Danny Gray. That's why they brought in Ray McCloud, because look at their receivers: Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings. Those are big physical guys who move the chains and make lots of plays underneath and in the intermediate area and within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Deebo could be used on gadget plays. Ayuk is best in the intermediate area. Jennings is phenomenal on the cuts, in cuts, out cuts, 8 to 12 yards. So why Danny Gray? Why Ray McCloud? Because those guys have speed. And if you don't have any speed, teams will defend you differently. So you got to have a Danny Gray. You got to have a Ray McCloud. If you don't have a guy like that on your roster, the teams, will basically squat on your deep routes, and they'll just sit there and be leaning forward, and the rest of your position players will just get destroyed with violent hits underneath because you don't have that player to run off the coverage. You don't have that player to stretch the field. You don't have that player that makes the corners and the safeties kind of think twice about rallying up with tons of force, getting closer to the line of scrimmage because they're worried. Ray McCloud may run by me. Danny Gray may run by me. They may throw one over the top of my head. So then you look at the couple receivers the Niners have added recently, and Ronnie Bell and Tay Martin. Well, you can't have more. You need to have a speedster. You got to have a complementary speedster, but you can't devote too many of your wide receiver spots to guys who have big time vertical speed, but don't move the chains, or you don't move the chains as a football team. And so, yeah, they've got Jennings and Deebo and Ayuk, and they've added Danny Gray and Ray McCloud to give them that vertical threat, but you still need some young chain movers. Guys who are going to make every catch on 3rd and 6, guys who are going to catch it in a crowd, guys who pluck it with their hands, who have great ball skills, guys who have significantly larger catch radiuses. And that's what Ronnie Bell is. And that's what Tay Martin is. So Ronnie Bell runs 4.54. Tay Martin probably ran about the same. They're not burners, but they have huge catch radius. They can catch anything in their area. They pluck the ball with their hands. They're very dependable, and they'll keep the chains moving. So they're perfect. They're perfect complementary players. You look at some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Cooper Kupp runs 4.62. He was not a burner, but he's got great ball skills. He runs terrific routes. He'll catch it in a crowd. He can take a lick and still keep going. That's what Ronnie Bell is. In some ways, that's what Tay Martin is. So do they prioritize speed on the perimeter? They do, in that Danny Gray and Ray McCloud are essential. And if Kyle Shanahan were sitting here, he would tell you as much. He would tell you, hey, look, if I'm going to be a play caller, I got to have somebody who's going to run off the coverage to keep defenses honest. But the rest of my receiving core, I want guys who can catch the ball and are great at it with terrific ball skills, with a huge catch radius. And that's what Ronnie Bell is, and that's what Willie Snead is at this point, and that's what Tay Martin is. So that's that position. All right, now let's talk about running back. Elijah Mitchell ran 4.38, But if you watch him, he doesn't play to that speed. He really doesn't. He plays significantly slower than that, but he doesn't fumble the ball. He's got great pick and slide, and he's got great instincts. Running back is an instinctive position. It's not about 40 times. It's about, can you make somebody miss? Can you pick the right hole? Can you block? How quickly do you get to full speed? Your 10-yard split is way more important as a running back than your 40-yard time. So you look at Elijah Mitchell, and he has a great 40 time, but he doesn't play to that speed. So I guarantee you they drafted him not because of the 4.3. They drafted him because of the running style, because he's got an ability to pick and slide. He doesn't fumble the ball. He makes guys miss. If it's blocked for 2, he gets 2, maybe 3. If it's blocked for 4, he gets 4, maybe 5. He's an instinctive runner. He knows how to pick and slide. He knows how to pick a hole. He knows how to get skinny through the hole. Another area where speed is nice, but it's really secondary to instincts. All right, let's go to a position like defensive end. In the Niners wide 9, they want somebody to burn the edge, opposite Nick Bosa. Robert Beal ran 4.48. So that's a spot where the 49ers are not really looking in this wide 9 to have, do they want to stop the run? Yeah. But they really want to get up the field and wreak havoc and put heat on the edges, on the tackles, and subsequently on the quarterback. And that's what Beal can do. So the Niners, are looking for speed in their edge. And that's what Ebukam gave them. And that's what Beal gives them. Ultimately, I think they would even like to have more speed than they do have right now. But speed is in that position. They love the speed of Robert Beal, and that's why they drafted him. Now let's go to linebacker. It's about speed because in the NFL, the linebacker position has been revolutionized. I mean, there's been a total change in the way it used to be 4.9 linebackers were common, and guys who ran 4.7 were everywhere. Now, if you're not a 4.5 burner, you just get isolated in space against an athletic receiver, tight end, running back, whatever. And you're coming off the field because they're making big plays against you. You got to be able to run. And that's what's changed in the NFL. So now all these linebackers are converted safeties. Fred Warner was a combination rover linebacker at BYU. Greenlaw runs in the 4.5s. D. Winters ran sub 4.5. Flanagan Fowles was a safety at Arizona. Jalen Graham is 220 pounds. He looks like a jumbo safety. These guys look like the linebackers of 2023 look like the safeties of the 80s and 90s. Marcelino McCrary Ball went to Indiana as a corner and then wind up playing the nickel there. And now is a linebacker full-time with the 49ers. So speed is of the essence. But the Niners don't want just speed. They want guys who are instinctive and make plays. Why? Because if you have 4.5 speed or sub 4.5 speed and you're playing linebacker and you key and diagnose incorrectly, guess what? You're further away from the play than you would be if you were slow. So in that situation, you need instincts. Do they prioritize speed? Yes. But they also, before that, will prioritize instincts. And instincts are, you can find out who's got good instincts by who makes the plays. So it really comes down to you want linebackers who are incredibly productive in college and have 4.5 speed. So speed becomes of the essence there. Now let's move to the secondary. The Niners now have Talanoa Hufanga. He did not run a good 40 time. I think he ran 4.76. They just drafted Jair Brown. He ran 4.6. He's not a burner. Avery Young, they just drafted out of Rutgers. Not a burner. I think he ran in the 4.7s. But they like all three of those guys. And why do they like them? Because they've got tremendous instincts. And most of that position is about instincts. You're either reading it correctly and flowing in the right direction, or you're reading it incorrectly. Now, if you want to burn Talanoa Hufanga, the best way to burn him is down the field in a pass play where he's got to play the deep quarter coverage and and he's got to run with a receiver or a tight end down the field. In the box, he's a menace. And Jair Brown's the same thing. In the box, he's going to kill you. If you're going to burn him, you're going to burn him in coverage. But guess what? These guys also have tremendous instincts. Avery Young started his career at Rutgers as a corner and then played safety at the end. But he's got cornerback coverage ability. He's got mirroring skills. So you got to be able to cover in today's game as a safety, but you also got to be able to play in the box. You got to be able to hit. You got to be versatile. There's all kinds of different coverages. You know, the Niners under Wilkes, they're going to play some press man. They're going to play some off coverage. They're going to play some zones. I would imagine you're going to see a lot of cover 3. That means one safety deep. That means you got to be able to cover down the field. It means you have to have tremendous instincts. And that's what Gibson has. And that's what Jair Brown has. And that's what Afonga has. And that's what Avery Young has. And the Niners are looking for safeties that have cornerback experience. Taylor Hawkins was a terrific corner at San Diego State. Avery Young's got cornerback experience from Rutgers. Quantrez Knight has cornerback experience for UCLA. And so they want guys who can cover. Isaiah Oliver was an outside corner and now, has found his kind of spot inside. So ultimately, how much do 40 times matter? It really kind of depends on what position you're playing and what you're being asked to do. For the Niners, that when they're looking at defensive ends, that speed matters because they're looking at somebody who can burn the edge, get out of their stance, and be flying off the edge. But when it comes for, linebackers, you need that. They want the speed, but they also want the instincts. And it's really important that they have great collegiate production and the ability to play coverage, pass coverage, because it's a passing game. You're in the sub package, 75% of the time. And then as far as the safeties go, they're really prioritizing guys who have versatility, guys who have coverage ability, but guys who have football instincts and smarts. And that's Afonga, and that's Jair Brown. And to a lesser degree, that's Avery Young. And preferably, if these guys have corner experience, that really helps them as well in a game that's very much predicated on how you defend the pass. So ultimately, I think when you look at speed, it means different things in different spots. At wide receiver, it really depends on, what the rest of the makeup of the wide receiver core looks like. But if you got a bunch of possession guys, damn right you need Danny Gray. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to run off the coverage. But if all you have are Danny Grays, you're probably not going to be able to sustain drives. And that's why you have Tay Martin and Ronnie Bell and Jawan Jennings and guys who have true ball skills. So different positions want different traits. But I think the 49ers have it right. The best way to handicap the draft, the best way to find productive pro football players is scout the games. Don't get wowed by 40 times at workouts or at the combine. Scout the games. Decide if you like the guy's speed on film. Does he play fast? There's strength and then there's functional strength. There's speed and then there's functional speed. What you're looking for is functional strength and functional speed. Not just 40 times speed, straight line, stopwatch, Indy speed. How fast are you on the field? Jerry Rice ran 4.55. He ran away from every defensive back he ever went against. Vernon Davis, on the other hand, ran 4.37 and was caught from behind constantly. So how do you make sense of that? Vernon had stopwatch speed and build-up speed, and he didn't have the incredible quickness, and he didn't play to the 4.37. Rice was timed at 4.55, but he was field fast, and he ran away from everybody he ever went against. So was he really 4.55? Well, that's what his 40 times said, but he played like a 4.4 guy. Same with T.O. T.O. had a mediocre 40 time, but he was fast as heck with the ball in his hands. So just there's different ways to look at speed. There's different ways to measure it. Ultimately, Are you field fast? And the Niners have drafted guys. Some of them have great 40 times, a la Danny Gray, but the vast majority were productive college football players who have functional speed and are field fast. And that's why, even though you got Hufanga and Jair Brown and Tayshaun Gibson, they don't get burned a lot. Why? Because they've got functional speed and they take good angles to the football. All right, hope you enjoyed our video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.